All Saints' Day in Bosnia and Herzegovina. People from the village of Divkovici pay tribute to their loved ones. Goran Stojak recently lost his father to lung cancer. In the last 4 months, 6 villagers have died of the same condition, the latest on a long list of deaths from lung cancer. The finger of suspicion points to the Tuzla power plant. Coal combustion waste is discharged just outside the village. Goran has been fighting to save locals from the plant's pollution for years.
The power plant is there, and the waste comes through the pipeline. And this water gradually seeps into the ground. It spreads on the banks on both sides of the lake, and it gets into the wells from where people get their drinking water.
Once filtered and mixed with water, the waste is piped to large landfills on the village outskirts. Tests carried out by an independent laboratory have shown high concentrations of heavy metal residues lying deep underground.
It looks like fairly rich, fertile soil, but it's actually waste residues from the coal plant. And in there you can find things such as cadmium, mercury, arsenic, chromium. And all this has contaminated the land around the village, as well as the water, of course.
In dry weather, the wind blows particles of toxic soot to people's homes. Most villagers are affected by asthma, bronchitis, and even more serious lung diseases.
Last night, I had to take my wife and our 7-month-old baby to hospital for obstructive lung problems. Lying in bed at night, I often hear my neighbour crying out from the pain of lung cancer. People living here are doomed. This village will be a ghost town in a few years. There'll be nobody left.
Goran heads up a neighbourhood community and constantly tries to get local authorities to do something about the plant. He says nothing has been done for the 70 people who still live in the village, such as Mila. She lives off a meagre pension and, until recently, from food grown in her garden.
They used to weigh up to 3 kilos. It's beet for the cows.
Laboratory test results scare Mila, but she says it's not easy to give up on her homegrown produce.
We have no choice. We have small pensions. We have to live off something. We have no money to buy things outside. My son is unemployed. I have to grow what we eat.
It was impossible to get into the Tuzla power plant. Our repeated requests to the electricity company that manages it got lost in the chimney fumes.
Heavy metals, carbon dioxide, nitrogen oxide, sulfur dioxide and fine particles make coal the most harmful of fossil fuels. Along with air pollution from cars and domestic coal burning, the plant puts Tuzla high on the list of Europe's most polluted cities. This NGO has complained about the Tuzla power plant's expansion projects. Its director says it's better to invest in energy efficiency.
We found
out that by implementing simple measures, we can reduce the consumption of thermal energy by 42% and CO2 emissions by 40%. Things like thermally insulating buildings.
There are 4 coal plants in Bosnia and Herzegovina and plans to build a further 7 coal sites. NGOs say that could generate an 18% increase in greenhouse gas emissions. That's from the level in the early 90s by 2030. In Sarajevo, we go to the Ministry of Foreign Trade's Energy Department. In the absence of a national energy strategy, construction of new plants doesn't depend on the state, but on its entities, the Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina and Republika Srpska.
Would you agree that in order to comply with a reduction of emissions commitments, all these plans would have to be cancelled?
This is a political issue that the governments of both entities which make up Bosnia and Herzegovina will handle. On the other hand, the state is determined to meet its commitments towards the energy community and the European Union. We are determined to achieve the target of 40% for renewable energy by 2020.
We head for Republika Srpska and the Ugljevik coal power plant, which also plans a new unit. Management opens the plant's door to us, but does not comment on the expansion project, which, as in Tuzla, has also attracted complaints from environmental organizations. What they do want to talk about are the plans to modernize the power plant over the next 3 years.
Once we have completed the construction of a desulfurization unit, we will reduce sulfur dioxide emissions by more than 80 times at 200 milligrams per cubic meter, which represents the most rigorous European standards. On the other hand, we will also reduce by 8 times the emissions of particulate matter from the chimney by installing new electrofilters.
Nobody here disputes the health and environmental impact of the plant, but it's a vital source of employment for the region. Radia Voja has worked here for 20 years and says until clean energy is developed, the local people can't do without the coal industry to find jobs.
Despite the health risks, we are forced to produce electricity like this. Otherwise, our youth would leave for other cities, other states, other continents in order to find jobs. And if there were no more young people living here, then what would be the point in keeping this plant open?